Dr. J. Roy Evano and Dr. Christian Paul de la Vega from DepEd Muntinlupa. And lastly, Mr. Rocky Alampay and Ms. Stephanie Orlino from SMART on stage for our Q&A. Mr. Robbie Alampay from SMART. Maybe to start off, we have a question for our partners from DepEd Muntinlupa. So our question is, from the first phase of this program, what were the most notable improvements you observed among the teachers who participated?
Good morning, I am Dr. J. Evano. I am currently principal of Sukat Senior High School, one of the program recipients. But when the program was launched last year, I was still a public schools district supervisor, and I handled a couple of schools that benefited from the program. So I'm quite familiar with how the program impacted the quality of teaching and learning in most of our secondary schools. To begin with, I'd like to say teachers were engaged in activities that did not only make learning more engaging, more enjoyable, but they were also given the opportunity to customize the instruction to target competency gaps. So that's one of the critical areas we looked at when we started out. We needed to actually ensure that the way we teach actually matches what the students need. And by making them go through the process of developing lessons, by transporting these lessons into VR supported class activities, the teachers become more intentional in terms of designs. Number two, the learners become more engaged. The level of engagement is tremendously improved when VR was brought to the classroom. Of course, as we know, the public school system is actually experiencing a dearth in technology, and our internet connectivity is unreliable. And when our partners came over, to a certain extent, these concerns have been alleviated, and the results are very evident in the way our learners engaged in classroom instruction. And finally, I think we also have to mention the degree of collaboration that was facilitated by the program, when teachers get to work together to craft lessons and ensure that these lessons are embedded in the VR system. They bring to the table wealth of experiences that are otherwise untapped for other teachers. And so when they converse, when they talk to each other, when they collaboratively develop materials, we also allow them to learn from the expertise of one another, thereby improving the quality of the lesson and, of course, the way they teach students in the classrooms.
Thank you so much, Dr. J. Now a question from our partners from Ericsson. How is Ericsson ensuring that the training is practical and adaptable to different classroom conditions in the Philippines?
That's a good question, and the way that we addressed that was to do a very thorough needs assessment at the beginning of the project. So I remember during that time we were doing everything online as well with the Department of Education, and the idea was to replicate what teachers would actually be doing in the local high schools with the online and the VR modules. So if you go to the VR modules, for example, you will see that the classrooms look like the classrooms of DepEd Muntinlupa, and then we created the students to interact in the same way that they would be interacting with teachers in real life. Yeah, so we try to make it as close to real life as possible.
Thank you so much, Ms. Allen. And maybe another question also would be, Of course, with the success and the milestone partnership that we have right now, are there also any plans to expand this collaboration with more institutions or local governments in the future?
Actually, we were just talking about it this morning with the Edmonton Lupa. So we have covered now the public high schools. And the thinking behind it is that when you integrate technology into the classroom, it needs to be maybe 12 years old and above. Having said that, because DepEd pointed out to us earlier in the year that actually even the elementary school students nowadays are using ICT technologies and they're using it in the classroom. So we were thinking about whether an expansion could be made into the elementary school levels, but this is not yet finalized, so we have to be discussing it and then we can announce if anything is concrete at a later date.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ellen. Really exciting times for this project, especially with potential expansion. Next, we have a question for Mr. Robbie Alampay. How do you envision this project contributing to the Philippines' digital literacy roadmap in the country?
Well, of course, everything naman that plugs in to everything that both government and private sector, and for that matter, even civil society and academic sector are bringing, and everything just adds to that. It's an ecosystem. You know, it's an ecosystem, and then what's important is that we understand our role here. Our job here as telcos is to provide the connectivity and then to allow the technologies to plug into that connectivity. So we play a vital role. We understand this with our network, not just with the speed, but just with the network. I spoke about, every time there's a disaster or every time there is as we saw it in the pandemic, every time for one reason or another, people are cut off from the network. We understand that we have to keep investing. It will never be good enough. And there is certainly in this country more than enough room, a lot of room for us to continue connecting our islands. We're talking about Muntinlupa. and we know that, as we talk about Muntinlupa, Metro Manila, Greater Manila area, we have to talk about Luzon, we have to talk about Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and then we have to talk about our islands. So for us, we can only speak for our role in this ecosystem. And this ecosystem demands connectivity, it demands access. But once you provide that, we understand that you need the innovation, you need the hardware, you need the software, most importantly, you need the content. And even more important than the content, you need the people who will facilitate the transfer of knowledge, our teachers. You need people to teach the teachers. That's our partners in technology. So if all of this can plug in, it just adds to an ecosystem that hopefully is more resilient, more stable, and that will really connect all our people.
Thank you so much, Sir Robbie. It's really an ecosystem of trying to be more transformative, especially when it comes to technology and innovation. Maybe if you don't have any questions from our audience, just one last question for everyone in our panel. What lessons from this project could guide future collaborations between the private sector, government, and schools?
Thank you so much. I am Dr. Paul De La Vega, the Division Unit Head for Social Mobilization and Networking. So under RA 8525, wherein all the department, even the Department of Education, even CHED, to have a ADAPA school program. And we're very happy and very grateful with this partnership because even though the agency are giving all their best in the extent of the help in enriching our students and teachers, we really need help to meet that kind of gap. And through this effort, through this partnership, we can assure that the private sector of all the innovations they're sharing with us is a catalyst and able for us to meet that kind of gap. And we keep telling that no one will left behind, and it's really hard to meet that because every year we're facing challenges, not just in the environment in the school, but also our environment itself outside, di ba? We're facing na walang klase, di ba? Walang pasok, different kind of suspensions, pandemic and all. But this kind of preparation, through the help of our partnership, we were able to meet that. And it's not just the goal of the education to educate our students. It is also responsibility of the agency to capacitate our teachers. And seeing those private partners who have a big heart for us, with a big heart for the teachers, we are really open for the different kind of partnership that will grow those learning to them. Kasi kailangan po talaga namin ng partners para talagang magawa po natin yung sinasabi natin na walang batang may iwan. At hindi lang ito trabaho ng isang manggagawa sa gobyerno. Ito ay collaborative effort ng bawat mamamayang Pilipino para wala na po talagang batang Pilipino ang may iwan sa larangan ng edukasyon. Thank you so much.
I think we also have to emphasize moving forward that our learnings from the initial run of the program have enabled us to map a clear path towards ensuring that this program will become sustainable. You know, the challenge is not only starting a program but ensuring that it's sustainable so that learners, more learners can benefit from it. Kanina we were discussing about how we can improve internet connectivity because of course VR is contingent upon good internet access. For us to be able to maximize its use, we need to ensure that our schools have good access to internet. And Ericsson here pledged that they would cover internet subscription for all participating schools for a period of 1 year. But the PLDT here is actually asking whether moving forward, pagkatapos itong isang taon, ano na ang mangyayari. So, kagandahan yan because we discuss these matters. We're able to find ways to pull the necessary resource to ensure that the sustainability requirements are met. Particularly in the context of the program, we will tap resources of the city through the Special Education Fund. We've included proposals to increase funding for internet connectivity in the schools. It would not only benefit our Ericsson partnership but also the schools in general because when the learners get to have access to internet, the learning space widens and they're able to actually access learning opportunities that are otherwise unavailable if we limit them to physical classrooms. So these are types of mapping directions that we've set for the program, and I hope as we continuously engage in improving program framework, we can identify other points of partnerships that could potentially enhance benefits for not just Muntinlupeño learners, but learners from other provinces, considering that we're using the Muntinlupa experience as a template for potential expansion. So on behalf of SDO Muntinlupa, we are thanking Ericsson and PLDT for not just bringing in the technology, for bringing in internet connectivity, but for pushing us to explore our resource base and identify resources that we can invest directly in the program, ensuring that whatever meager resource we have, we put them in the most impactful services for the learners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do agree that connectivity plays a big role in this. Pero disclaimer lang po, yun pong connectivity is a piece that we are discussing with PLDT. So, actually, sir, pang second press con na natin yan. So, babalik po kami ulit to announce something once we have finalized something concrete.
Na-preempt ko yate.
Okay lang po, okay lang po. Yeah, but what you said about sustainability is super important, and actually this is something that we built into the program. So towards the end of the first phase po, we did sustainability workshops with the Department of Education, and for us in Ericsson, that's a key learning and something that we have also been building into our other education projects. But aside from the sustainability, I think what really made a difference is that we took a long time in doing the needs assessment. and all of the inputs from SMART, because SMART also has a very long history in doing education projects in the Philippines. So all of the inputs from SMART and from DepEd and from PNU really came together so that we were able to design something that teachers could actually use. So I think the needs assessment phase was a worthwhile investment, and also the sustainability workshops that we have done. I think this might be one of the longest running education projects that we have, and it's all because of the commitment of our partners and also the support of SMART. So we thank everyone for this great partnership.
Yeah, no, I just want to add to that because that's exactly what I was going to say, also citing what Ellen said even earlier, that it is about the needs assessment. It is about any partnership or any intervention being user-centric. At the end of the day, it's not about bringing the latest technology. It's not about the latest, fanciest, shiniest new toy. It's not the most impressive magic that you can find in the latest technology. At the end of the day, is it useful and does it address the really specific needs? We found this, like I said, every time we visit our partner schools in geographically isolated areas, we have packages. We have school in the box packages where I remember we went to Benguet recently, and I asked the teacher, when again did we bring the school in the box, and what was inside that? Oh, may dalawang laptop, saka 10 tablet, and when was this? This was 2023, di ba? And we know that in this day and age, a tablet that was handed out in 2023, that's being handled by 100 students per day, has no guarantee that it is still working. For that matter, a laptop of 2 years ago is no longer cutting edge, not the fastest anymore. And I was surprised by two things. One, they said, the age, and yes, it's no longer the newest thing. But the second thing was that they were maintaining it, and we went to the classroom. Everything was running, but we also identified another need. As part of the ecosystem, we had provision for connectivity, we had provision for the hardware, we had provision even for the content. We and even all our partners, there's no shame in saying this, we had not actually provision for maintenance. No, so when we ask, so who does the maintenance? It's I think one of the teachers. So the teacher who is not necessarily knows the most, but is the bravest, defaults to be the MIS of the school, and he says, I lose every time I need to update the OS. I lose 2 to 3 hours in doing this, and that humbles us, and that reminds us, and then we reach out again to other partners, the private sector and in government, and to bring this news in all humility, because we know that we're just carrying one part of the ecosystem, but all of that goes to having ears and eyes on the ground, and starting with that question, kamusta na po ba kayo? Ano ba talaga kailangan niyo dito? Otherwise, even the newest, fastest, fanciest gadgets will really amount to nothing. They will make do with what we can afford to bring, as long as it stems from our effort to ask, what do you need, and that's a very basic question from which all of this proceeds, and that's why I think this partnership succeeds, precisely because everybody here agrees that let's start with the needs assessment, and let's ask the people, the teachers, what can they really use.
We have one last question from FinTech News PH, from our media participant. How do each of the partners of Ericsson, Smart, DepEd Muntinlupa, and our partner from PNU is not here at the moment, but how do each of the partners define success in the VR-based teacher training initiative?
Well, in the context of education, any program like this would be gauged at the level of whether there's an increase of technology integration into the classroom. And the be all goal is of course whether there's an improvement in learning outcomes. Yan naman talaga ang direction natin. So primarily, we measure this at the level of whether our teachers become more capable of using the VR technology, integrating it in their classrooms, and ensuring that the learners get to use the same to improve their understanding of what they're supposed to learn in the classroom. So that's exactly where it is headed. At the context, I mean, in the context of teacher training, because of course the program started with that, we have trained our teachers. Talagang nandoon yan sa pagtingin kung ginagamit, the frequency ng paggamit, and we correlate it to whether the learners who use the same learn exactly what they have to. Alright. If you look at success at the level of partnerships, resource pooling, whether we meet our target of training this number of teachers, whether we covered our expected participants, whether we're able to provide them with the necessary resource. And I think looking at what happened with the first phase, I would say that the partnership has yielded very, very encouraging, if not outstanding results. That's why we are sustaining it. We're having a second phase. Ultimately, kami naman sa Department of Education, ang pagtingin namin sa initiatives na ganito, medyo long term. Well, we measured the effect of the program in terms of short-term metrics. But as we move to the next phases, we would be able to see exactly how it translates to better learning for our learners. And masaya kami if we would reach that phase, we will still collaborate with one another in assessing whether the program has really produced better outcomes, especially now that we are challenged with a lot of concerns looking at our national and international benchmarks. I would just like to mention that the Department of Education Muntinlupa is very positive that this is going to actually yield the desired outcomes looking at the data we have for the first phase. And we are very committed to putting in resource, especially ensuring that our teachers participate in all activities as indicated in the program, so that at least we can ensure that the outcomes can be achieved as planned. Thank you.
From a project perspective po, as Dr. Ivana has mentioned, so we had targets at the beginning. We actually exceeded those targets. So our initial target was only to reach 1,000 teachers. We ended at 1,700. So I think that really exceeded even our own expectations. And then of course we had the monitoring and evaluation study that really showed statistically that there was a comparable difference between the performance of the teachers before the program and then after they had completed the program. But I think the best indicator of success is now we have phase 2 and we're continuing with the project, and we're still thinking of ways on how we can make the project better.
Well, for PLDT, as part our indicator is very specific and very clear to us: connectivity. Sayang naman yung sayang naman yung hirap ng mga guro natin. Sayang naman itong technology na dala ng Ericsson. If at the end of the day we don't play our role and we don't deliver on our part. So for us, we take that seriously, and I take this opportunity to remind myself, ourselves, and our partners here. Connectivity, sagot namin yan. And that's going to be an important measure as far as the partnership is concerned, and our role in it. But as far as this entire project is concerned, nabanggit na rin nila do, that ultimately it's about the learning outcomes. That's been institutionalized by the Department of Education, that's standardized throughout the country, and those are the things that ultimately we will measure. Does this have an impact on the participation and the enthusiasm of our children? Is that reflected in their grades? Are we going up in the PISA rankings? These are the things that are beyond any single partner's scope and ability to deliver on. But the impact really will have to be on an all of society approach. We hope we're playing our role in this society, but at the end of the day, those are still the indicators we subscribe to. That's why this partnership became real, because it was easy to, because the framework was already there. We knew what the indicators are supposed to be, we know what the learning outcomes are supposed to be, and then so we can just jump in and same thing here, plug in whatever we can contribute.
Thank you so much to all our panel for answering all the questions that we have for this morning. And that officially wraps up our activity for today. Once again, this has been your host, Kat Malyari from PLDT and SMART. And again, a salute to all our teachers for the wonderful work that you do in ensuring that no teachers and students are left behind. Thank you very much, everyone.